We went, yeah, oh yeah, it's a squad for real. Me, Senator Taylor, or Judge, I keep saying Senator, Judge Taylor, Donna Shepard, Latoya Sykes, uh, State Rep
Leave
Myers.
somebody out now. You know how
We fell into the spot and cut up and cut up and cut up some more. So we had a ball, and it was just a good weekend. And one of my good friends, the brother that comes on the station, Deron Brown, who does the cookies, he bought me a book that Keith and I had been talking about. It actually arrived yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And the name of the book is Black AF History. The A and the F both stand for curse words.
Which we know what that is.
But Keith and I had talked about this book on my show, or on one of our shows, between the two of us. And so this book, which was written by Michael Harriot, Black AF History, the Unwhitewashed Story of America. Mm-hmm. I started it. That's another reason why I'm tired.
You haven't put it down.
I knew it. I knew it was going to be that way. So I was like, don't pick it up. Don't pick it up. I was up reading to 3-something this morning. And so when I say I'm exhausted, I'm exhausted. So it was just great. But let me check in with y'all, bruh.
Is that a Barnes and Noble piece, or
you can order it from anywhere? You can order it from anywhere. And in fact, because then it was funny because I had ordered 2 books and I got him one, which was Love and Whiskey. Mm-hmm. And that's Uncle Nearest.
Right.
And
so that's a play on his whiskey cookies. And
yeah, right. So. And I thought that was kind of slick. Mm-hmm. But my glasses keep fogging up. But so it was a good weekend. But again, let me check in with y'all because I saw photos down at Clinton Rose at the concert series. You and Lakeisha Myers was getting y'all a little jig on.
We did that in honor of you.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was in honor of your birthday. Absolutely.
Whatever.
Mano's birthday. We were all there. We were feeling good, and we said, "Come on, let's cut the rug."
Yeah, and it looked like it was some rug cutting going on.
Exactly. Keisha needs to work on that one move she tried to do when she go to the left.
Really?
She ain't got that one quite right.
Really?
Yeah, she can't.
I mean, like too old or just can't dance.
Just have lost a step somewhere.
You're so dirty. But you, on the other hand,
man, I was ready.
Getting it in.
If I'd have had a good partner, man, I'd have tore it up.
If you had a good partner, that's so messed
and
up.
I said to her as we were culminating the dance, I said, I timed that one just right because I'm tired as hell. We did about 2 little spins or so, and we were done.
Yeah, I don't. The whole song?
I don't dance whole records.
You do not.
No.
What?
Have no intentions on it. When I get out there, it's about over. As a DJ, when it's about to end. So that's when you jump out there and just give it your best. Bam, bam, hit him with it.
Bam,
and
bam.
Yeah, that's right. Bam,
you
bam,
like
bam. That's right. Get to him. Give it to him. And then
it looked like you showed up.
The record ends, and you look. You practice this now. You practice this look of disappointment. Like, damn, the record done ended. Man, I was just getting ready to. No, I wasn't.
But as a DJ, you already know when the record is about to end.
I got to give it up.
When
you hit that part, Marvin, get ready to end this joint. Hey, come on, dance with me. You get out there,
So, and you know what? Now that I go back to the Granville Blues, that is your MO.
That's right.
Because, you'll get you'll crank it up looking like Red Fox, Sanford and Son. You'll crank it up, walk on out, drag some unsuspected, pitiful sister out on the dance floor. And then it's a whole 38 seconds, and then it's over.
Well, the reason I ended out there is because you guys are always trying to snap shots.
Well,
you try to catch me with that one white woman.
You always mess with that lady, though. That's on you.
That's my girl.
That's on you. Well, Keisha told me that Ride Out got down.
He did.
I heard that it was an excellent show. Mm-hmm. I told him we got a piano at the house, so he's gonna have to come play at the house. We're gonna need a concert. I was thinking like Christmas party should be at the house this year.
You know who really got down?
So I could have y'all play and sing the piano.
The whole set was nice, but I really enjoyed New Orleans Bow. It was just.
Was there any doubt?
But it was
Keisha said that because what he did an hour.
Yeah, 45 minutes.
Yeah, something like that. She said like he was just getting warmed up.
Yeah.
When it was time for the show to end, like
So
he could have went a whole nother hour.
I've already reached out to him. We talked on yesterday, and I'm bringing him back.
Really?
Bring him back and just let him go. My band, him, I might put right out up there with us and just go. Holidays are coming, so mark
so we
your
got
calendars.
some holiday festivities, holiday parties to go to, concerts to go to.
That's what we
I like it. I like it. Hey, Carvey. So I want you to know I have some young listeners. 19, 20. They was like, you got a picture of Carvey? I was like, I do not. So the little 20-year-old, she said, you don't know who Carvey is? So she bust up her old picture of you. Actually at a performance. I think it was at Summerfest, maybe. And so you got like a whole little fan base out there. It's real. And what happened?
I told you that
Carvey said, what happened when Carvey was walking up in here?
This older guy and the younger guy were walking, and so Carvey's getting out the car, and the young man said, "Ain't you Carvey P?"
What? The brother said it?
Yeah. So Carvey was like, "Yeah, I'm Carvey P." You know, he shook his hand and everything. You know, woo woo woo. So as he's walking away with the older cat, I told you that was Carvey P, man. I know what I'm talking about, man. That's Carvey P.
I just want to say that it is nothing short of, like, when you look at our lineup, our roster of who was in this building, man, it's some bosses in this building, man. I mean, Debo Love Piece of Soul, Jay Rideout, and his band, Carvey P,
DJ L Boogie.
L Boogie, and then you mess around. Got Sharon winning. What she win? The Grammy
Gospel Announcer of the Year award.
Yeah, you got Sharon killing the game on the gospel side,
and then we got you.
Well, no.
Yeah. I mean,
got that
come
going
on, Michelle.
over
You're
here.
one of the coldest in the city. Trust me.
No, got that going on over here.
Nothing moves, nothing shakes, except that it comes through you.
You got an assistant pastor sitting at the table.
And then,
like Keith Paris, like
then
y'all got some beats up in here.
There's Keith.
And look, you say I was gonna do that, but I ain't do that. Well, look, then there's Keith, who's married to the marathon blazer, Rhonda.
She's athletic.
She just finished her.
She's biking now, right?
She just did like a marathon in which she had to, and which is my Keith Paris's wife. She had to bike, walk, run, and swim. And so I was just triathlon. Yeah. So let me see if I can pull up her post. Yep. She said another triathlon in the books. When I can move, I will start training for the next one. And she had on her Black Girls Run t-shirt, or her gear. She looked amazing, dude. And so we got the pictures of her. Look at her on her bike. Yeah. Oh, she killing the game. And so this was the Wisconsin Women's Triathlon. So yeah, so Keith is famous because Rhonda's famous. Wow. I'm just hey.
Whatever it takes.
Sometimes you marry the star. And so congratulations to Rhonda Paris, who again killed the game. I really need to catch up. Like I'm coming. I need to catch up. So with that being said, we got a lot going on this morning. First of all, just want to let people know that in the 8 o'clock hour, we are actually going to have a candidates debate right here in the studio. Dave Cullen and Ted Chisholm will be joining us this morning to talk about the office that they are running for. And this is going to be an interesting conversation. I think Dave Cullen, 10-year incumbent, Ted Chisholm, who currently works for Milwaukee County, but relatively young newcomer to this particular arena, not necessarily in terms of politics, but when you listen to this young man talk, you understand this is going to be a real race and a real conversation, real interesting conversation. Dave Cullen, seasoned elected official, So it'll be interesting to hear both of their perspectives and takes on their respective roles and I'm sorry, on the job itself and on their vision for this particular role. So we will talk about that. That's happening in the 8 o'clock hour. They will both be with us in studio. A couple of quick things just to remind people. So early voting has now ended. Early voting has now ended here in the city of Milwaukee, or across the state. There is an election on tomorrow. There is an election on tomorrow. They said, well, should have done that over a week ago. I voted already. Yes, a number of people did vote and got it in early and got it out of the way. I voted early myself. I've made that a practice now to start doing that. So and I'm just pulling it up real quick. There we go. So early voting has ended. So you cannot go anywhere and vote today. But tomorrow, August 13th, you are able to go to vote. And you need to go to your regular polling location. You need to go to your normal polling location. Don't go up to 60th and Capitol to that voting center like, oh, I'm going here to vote. If that's not your regular voting location, you will be turned away. You have to go to your regular polling site if you have not voted already. There are a number of things on the ballot, including the referendums. We have talked about these referendums and being able to have folks, quite honestly say no to both referendums because they are about changing the ability of the governor to be able to administer dollars and funds. And I'm going to just give the example of when COVID dollars came in and Governor Evers was able to say, hey, we're going to give some money over here. We're going to put some money over here. We're going to do this. We're going to create the bounce back, Main Street bounce back grant. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. Republicans, in some cases, didn't even want us to accept money from the federal government because they didn't want to give Joe Biden a quote unquote win in terms of being able to help people during COVID. And with this change in the referendum, they want to be able to have the final say or the say about how those dollars are either taken and or spent. So I am telling people, I don't care if it's a Republican governor or Democratic governor, particularly in times of crisis and or emergency, governors need to be able to have the latitude and the ability to make decisions in real time as necessary for folks to be okay. And we don't need bureaucracy and red tape and political games being played in that process. Now, I'm not telling you it won't be devoid of political games at all, but I believe that the governors in these situations who have, that real time, quick ability to be able to get money in and get it out the door into the hands of residents that need it is critical. And this is simply another effort at a power grab by Republicans to have control. Even though they don't have control of the governor's office, they have looked for every possible way to limit Tony Evers' ability to govern and to execute his duties as the governor. Remember, right before he took office, there was all this cloak and dagger, 11th hour nonsense, trying to strip powers from him that Scott Walker had enjoyed the entire 8 years he was in office. Other Republicans had enjoyed the entire time they were in office. So this is something that if you have not voted yet and you're looking at these referendum questions, please, please, please consider voting no on these referendums because they are intended to do harm, not good. They are intended to do harm, but not good. The other thing that people need to understand is that this is a partisan primary. So when you go in, you'll be asked on your ballot if you're a Democrat, Republican, Independent, Green Party, Libertarian. All of that's right up at the top. And then you are going to check for candidates that are in those respective parties. So you can't vote Democrat Tammy Baldwin in this one and then vote Republican so-and-so in another, place somewhere else down on the ballot. This is a partisan primary. We are getting ready for the November 5th election, and this is the precursor to get ready for the big party November 5th. There's also the election was, and I just want to point it out because so many people have been confused because we had a special election in July for the remaining term, the 4 months or so now term left on Lena Taylor's seat when she was a senator. And then we have now a full 4-year race um, for the upcoming Senate seat that Senator Taylor had not planned to run for again. So we got this race. So people, you will go to the polling locations if you have not already voted, and you will see both Representative Dora Drake and Representative Lakeisha Representative Lakeisha Myers' names on the ballot. You will see both of them. And again, understanding, because people are like, I thought we did that already. That was a 4-month term. We are now going for the 4-year term. So if you have not voted, again, understand that piece when you get there. And there's everything from the top of the ticket all the way down to city and local municipality races. If you're not sure about what's on your ballot and you want to know before you get to the location, you can simply go. If you're not even sure where you go to vote, if you are not registered, you can register at the polls. Do you want me to read that? Is that why you pushing this over here? It's just like, give me here. Just like, just sliding it around. Um, but you can go to myvote.wi.gov. Just type in what's on my ballot, Wisconsin, whatever. I mean, where do I vote, Wisconsin? It will all lead you to this page. You can find this on your cell phone, on your search app engine or whatever, and your computers, but you can easily find this. Type in your address, and it will tell you what's on the ballot. Where do I vote? It will tell you where you vote. If you need to register, Wisconsin is one of the few states in which you can register at the polling location on the day of the election. So there's no reason not to participate. Turnout in the special election, which we knew would be abysmally low. I still didn't say it right. It was. We are now getting geared up. We have got to get ready for November 5th. This is consequential. It makes all the difference in the world, and we need everybody to show up. So with that, let me just make sure I also make another quick announcement. We have the WNOV 9th Annual Community Resource Fair that is happening. This is a collaborative effort done with the City of Milwaukee Health Department, and Milwaukee County. It is happening over at the Clinton Rose Center this Saturday, August 17th. This Saturday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. It is always an amazing time. There are prizes and giveaways and so much information that you can get. It was funny. This sister was selling cards that she made, like greeting cards. And I bought birthday cards from her, handmade birthday cards. I literally just got rid of my last one. I sent it to one of my friends out of state for her birthday. And I was like, I can re-up at the resource fair. Hopefully that sister's there as a vendor. There are a number of folks that are there, but there are sponsors at the table in addition to the folks that are the folks we're collaborating with. So AARP, US Bank, Lakeview Health, the New Pitts Mortuary, Employ Milwaukee, Centers for Independence, Housing Resources, Landmark Credit Union, the Medical College of Wisconsin Cancer Center, Progressive Community Health Centers, Wisconsin Black Chamber of Commerce, Milwaukee County Department of Health and Human Services, Child Support Services. Oh, there's Keith. Greater Milwaukee Urban League, City of Milwaukee Health Department, Substance Abuse, Northside Milwaukee Health Center Family Medicine Residency Program, Autism Society of Southeastern Wisconsin, and Wisdom, Micah, and Free.
Just to name a few.
Just to name a few.
Michelle,
So,
they don't mention it here. Now, I don't know if they don't want people to know, but gift cards will be given away every hour. We will pull a raffle for prizes, things of that nature. So certainly, they didn't put all the information in.
Yeah, no, they had like amazing prizes last year.
Yeah.
Because I was trying to win.
That girl, Luscious Lisa, she won $860, didn't she?
Yes.
Yeah, I recall.
Yes.
I don't know if they're giving
'Cause
away
that was
860 again, but I know there are gift cards and all kinds of prizes and so forth.
yeah,
So
but that
certainly
was
want to
that
mark
was
the
like
calendar. Yeah,
the thing. And she
yeah,
did I forgot about that. But yeah, she won eight hundred and
yeah.
sixty
Because she
dollars.
was like, my rent,
I
I'm
could have
behind in
used
my
all of
rent.
that.
This is all right.
I could have used all of that.
You and me both.
All of that. So I'm getting ready to take a break, y'all. When we
No,
come
we ain't
back,
got no. What,
ain't got no
what,
break. Well, I'm sorry. We
huh?
normally have a.
No, I'm sorry. We got a break. I'm just messing with
You
you. Let's
know
ride.
what? See, Harvey, get your people back. Get your bruh. All right, family. Let me take a break. Michelle Brown, WNOV, 860 AM, 106.5 FM. Say something real. I will be right back. One second. All right, family, welcome back to the show. A couple of things I want to hit on before our guests get in, but I am looking and I am so I know I should have pinned it. There was a post this morning, or at least I saw it this morning, that was done by um hmm okay, wait. That was done by Terrence Ray. T Ray. A lot of folks know Terrence, the work that he has done over the years in the community with the fatherhood initiative, fatherhood programming, all things helping bros. He has been that man. But he posted something this morning and it just got the best of me. You know, you understand how hard people work to acquire things. And he had a post in which he said that he was doing Uber, um, and driving Uber, and this was early in the morning, and he was on his way somewhere, and it sounds like a reckless driver hit his car and tore up his car. And he said the car then jumped the curb and went near a house, and there were two cars parked in the driveway, and the driver hit the back end of that car, the first car, which forced it into the other car. So two other cars additionally were also damaged. So this morning, three cars end up being damaged. The thing that got me on his post is he said, I had just made the third payment on my car. My car is a new car. And you just think about like how hard people work and how hard people, um, you know, in some cases even struggle to have the things that they want, the things that they need to be okay. So you out working, and that vehicle, not just getting you to work, it's also a source of income. And the car ends up being hit. So I don't know how bad the damage was, but my heart just broke for him when I read it on Facebook. And you just realize that people, you don't think about who the lives you impact when you make these crazy choices and decisions. Farina, and I need to make a donation, because I had talked about Farina's car being tore up and totaled, and this sister had to actually do a GoFundMe, and I saw it and I made a note to make a donation. I got to circle back and do that. Just trying to come up with a few $1,000s to be able to get herself a runner so you could get back out here in the game. And because depending on if you had gap insurance or not, you're still paying for these cars, even though you don't have them anymore. So I'm like, my young god niece came by the house yesterday, and she drives a really nice little Mazda SUV. She got a bullet hole in the hood. I was like, what is that? She was like, T, my car got shot in front of the house. I'm just like, oh my God. Like, it makes, because there are some neighborhoods and communities, you don't worry about none of this when you wake up. You don't worry about none of this when you wake up. You know, however you left your car when you went to bed last night, that's what your stuff look like when you come outside in the morning. And then there are other people, every day is a gamble. Every day is a risk. You never know what you're going to get from day to day, afternoon to afternoon. And she said her car got shot up at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon in broad daylight. They were shooting on the street. And her car took, I was just like, come on. And it's a young sister. She worked so hard to, you making payments on this. Now you got to figure out, is it worth the 1,000 or whatever dollars they said it is to get your hood fixed? Because they done shot a bullet in it. Like I just had a moment where I just had to shake my head in complete and utter frustration at what we go through as a community. And it's self-induced. We don't have to live this way. These don't have to be our issues. People could choose to do different, but they stuck on stupid. And we bringing up a whole little crop of stuck on stupid people. Like, you don't have to, this does not have to be our reality. But with that being said, there was a post that was done this weekend on social media. And then I'm gonna get into some quick news real quick before I do this panel with two candidates. But there was a post that was done this weekend that I weighed in on, that was done by Kathy. And she talked about, she said right at the top, this is going to be potentially an unpopular post. And she talked about the folks who go down to Elsa's and how Elsa's, in her opinion, had been ruined because basically too many Black people had started coming that were not behaving themselves. Okay. So Elsa's downtown, I forgot what street Elsa's is on, but downtown, as long as I've lived in Wisconsin, Elsa's has been like one of these spots. It is beautifully decorated. The owner, Carl, I think his last name is Carl Copps, connected to the Copps family, had the version AZ88 or whatever it was called out in Arizona. I would go on the days because I love their pork chop sandwiches when I first came. I love the glitter in the sidewalk in front of the building. I love that the changing art installations. I've always loved Elsa's. But I looked at her post and she talked about, how the owner, Carl Copps, had made the decision to, like, they switched up the music. So they thought it was more urban sounding music, and that, he had started welcoming this younger group of, young Black people, and the Black people was showing they behind. And so she went on to say how, we ruin everything and us tear up everything and us 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 and us. And we were just horrible, basically. And so I read the post and everybody weighing in, facts, this, that. And, so I just said, well, you know what? I just want to point out something. So y'all can do a social media post to talk about being frustrated that, ninjas have messed up the atmosphere at Elsa's. But you Negroes couldn't do no social media posts when Carl Copps wasn't never hiring no damn Black people down there. But the majority, I'm sorry, not the majority, but like 50% of his business was Black people. But you could hardly never see no Black wait staff and no Black bartenders for a long time at Elsa's. You didn't have no post about that. You didn't have no outrage and uproar, and you were pointed out to Negroes and they'll still trot they behind right on down there and not take a moment to actually look around and see, like, is this legitimate? Is there something going on up in here? See, he could take y'all money, but he couldn't hire y'all for a long time. So now you upset because the Negroes done messed up Elsa's for y'all, but you wasn't upset with the owner who wasn't hiring y'all. That's the part that pissed me off. That's the part that I don't understand. That's the part that works my whole nerves. Y'all done let these hood Negroes come up into Elsa's and mess up Elsa's. But you didn't have nothing to say when Elsa's wasn't hiring Black people. You look around there, it's lily white, but 50% of the customers is Black. I asked Carl Copps when I was in there one day, like, what's up with your hiring man? He told me that was his establishment. He do what he want to. I said, you are so right. It's my money. I spend it with people who hire people who look like me. And I never went back. No, I went back one time years later. Didn't order anything. I just had a glass of water while my friends was there. And then I was like, I'm never coming back in here again. I'm not violating my own principles and my own beliefs. So we could get a post about the Negroes, but we couldn't get a post about Carl. And when people, and I know I'm not the only one that said something about Elsa's, people posted stuff on social media and black folks chose to overlook that and or ignore it because you like the atmosphere of Elsa's. You like they expensive chicken wings, but you can get on social media and clown black folks, but y'all couldn't clown Carl. Man, So you know. You already know my post was like, here go Michelle. She always got something to say. But I just love the irony. I do. I love the irony. We hot because the Negroes have messed it up for the this type of Negroes. The other Negroes, Shay Shay and them, they messed it up for Cordelia. Shay Shay and Monique, it's some Monique's out there like, get off my name, have messed it up for Cordelia. Because Cordelia and Corey.
Do you know any other Cordelias?
I do. So there used to be Cordelia Taylor, who Miss Taylor here. I only knew 2 Cordelias in Wisconsin, and I've only met 3 in my entire life. And that included the 2 that was here. My name comes from Shakespeare. King Lear's daughter's name was Cordelia. My pop was a big reader. But in any case, so I just had to mention that because it was funny to me. I know I started laughing. I said, yeah, let me say, here go my unpopular post is that y'all Negroes kill me and what y'all complain about. That's what y'all kill me on. Because for years, people have been talking about Elsa's and the hiring practices and what was going on down there for years. And black people conveniently look the other way. Oh, well, they wasn't racist to me. Them chicken wings, I can't get them chicken wings nowhere else. That sandwich is ooh. But you can complain about some black folks, but y'all ain't had nothing to say when it seemed rather discriminatory up in that joint. And I've been going to Elsa's since 86, 87, or whenever the heck, if I first came here, I've been going to Elsa's that whole time. My son went to Elsa's when he was in high school. And he talked about the preferential treatment he received because my son was so big, they thought he was a Bucks player. So this little 18-year-old boy who was in high school was parlay. I go in Elsa's and see him sitting in the back on the date. Like, what is you doing up in here? I went on about my business. As long as he wasn't in there drinking, which he never did. He don't drink now. It was cool. But yeah. So I just have to say that about us and how we do. We don't have no mind calling us out, but we sure won't call other people out on their nonsense. Woo, that little post got the best of me. I'm like, no, you didn't. No, you didn't. Okay. So let me mention another story that is top of mind. We all are getting ready to have to deal with this. The city of Milwaukee is talking about their 2025 budget, and it's getting ready to be a hot mess. Even after what was done with the sales tax, even after what was done with shared revenue, people are, trying to sound the alarm now that we got a problem. We're going to have some major departmental cuts coming. There have been situations created as a result of getting the shared revenue money and the sales tax, Act 12, that came with, some requirements. That's getting ready to cause us some problems. There's a lengthy article in today's Journal Sentinel that explains what we're looking at in terms of a major budget deficit. People knew when we did shared revenue and when we did the sales tax that it was not a panacea that was going to cover our basis, that we were still going to be in trouble. There were some deals made to get that money that felt like deals being made with the devil, because the Republicans made sure that they put provisions in Act 12 and in the bill that would increase the number of police officers in Wisconsin. I mean, in Milwaukee, because Republicans is always looking out for their base. Police tend to be their base. Not all, but many tend to be their base of support. So there were three things that the city identified as a result of Act 12 that created a problem. So it's like you said, Michelle, can I borrow $50 from you? And I said, yeah, you can borrow $50 from me. But as a condition of getting that $50, 25 of it has to go to cut Debo's hair every week. Five of it has to go to keep Carvey's braids tight. So even though I got 50 from you, you just earmarked $30 of it to go towards, keeping this brother's fade cut and this brother's hair is his braids tight. So specifically in Act 12, which gave the city shared revenue, gave the city a 2% sales tax, what were the problems that were created? Number one, $50 million that the city must spend compared to the 2023 budgets because of changes to the city's pensions mandates in Act 12. So the pension became an issue. We already got so much trouble right now because of the pension. I'm telling you, where Myers talks about it all the time, how they need to put everybody on the same system instead of having two different systems for police and fire and then another one for everybody else. It's madness. Number two, and yeah, Lena said, but we told him that. And then she's listening. She said, we told him that. We told him that we was going to still be in trouble even if you took this deal. The increase in police and fire sworn personnel. That's the biggest salary expenses we have, for the city. But we were given mandates about giving more police officers jobs and more personnel, fire department. And then the third thing, an increase in salaries and wages in most other city departments to keep pace with market and address attrition crisis. So you got some things that because they put these caveats in there, and I shouldn't call them caveats, they put these bombs in there, we money can't be spent on the Office of African American Affairs. Money can't be spent over here. Like the Republicans was playing games. And quite frankly, they use shared revenue. They use the sales tax piece to play a whole bunch of games. That's most likely how the RNC got here. Because these negotiations, all this stuff is happening in the background around the same time. So, when I've had to go back and revisit and look at like the two black elected officials talking about let's bring the RNC because it's going to be a major economic boom for the city of Milwaukee when it really wasn't. And like, why was y'all doing this? Because so many of us were sitting there like going like, not really sure why y'all doing this. The more and more you look at it and think about it, you could draw the conclusion that there was some arm twisting going on by the Republicans behind the scenes to help the RNC get here and to help the city get their shared revenue and their sales taxes. I don't know, but I'm telling y'all, somewhere in the background, something shady was happening. The more and more I think about, particularly on why these two Democrats, even though, yep, you the head of these, city and county, and talking about an economic engine, blah, 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 blah. Like, no. It was something else going on in the background. It was something else definitely going on in the background. I'm convinced of it. And because look at all of the garbage that was put in Act 12. The Republicans saddled us with more debt. They saddled us with more financial responsibilities that we didn't even have prior to up there begging them for some money that was rightfully ours. They saddled us with more debt. So we got a breather in 23, 24, because the last of the opera dollars is in play, the bump from the sales tax and share revenue stuff in play. But I remember specifically the conversations with then Senator Taylor and others, in this, like, trying to ring the bell, like, y'all, do not take this deal or understand that this deal does not help us fully. We still, and I mean, like, to the point now that they're talking about the cuts. So on one hand, you got all the persons who have now given themselves basically to what amounts to be a 15% salary increase, which I didn't say a whole lot about at the time. But now clearly it's like, maybe y'all should have did that. Because y'all knew better than I and a lot of people in our community what was going on with this city budget. So if y'all knew, and I remember Lena and them talking about, like, this does not make us whole, we still will be in trouble. So if city leaders knew that we still were going to be financially in trouble, how y'all get yourself a raise of almost 15% on the Common Council? Because, see, y'all working with a different set of facts than I'm working with, than the community and the public is working with. So how y'all do that? I think that was legislation that was introduced by Mark Chambers. How y'all do that? And then everybody else jumps on board. Well, not everybody wanted to do it. I went back and I had to think about, like, there were some Common Council members who said, yeah, this is not a good time for us to give ourselves an increase that'll take our salary from like 77 or something like that, almost to 90, 92. Maybe we shouldn't do that right now. I think Bauman was one of those people. I have to go back and pull the story. So here we are, front page of the paper this morning, and the mayor, now we in trouble again. Now there's going to be major cuts to departments, and people are going to have to figure this out. If all departments, this is a quote from the story, if all departments, excluding police and fire, due to Act 12, so they're not going to be impacted in this way. If all departments reduce their expenditures by 5%, that would lower the gap by $15 million. But the gap in between what we are going to bring in revenues and what our actual responsibilities are, I think it was like $84 million or something. I have to go back and look in the article and see. But so every department other than fire and police would be looking at a 5% cut. They didn't have these numbers when the Common Council gave themselves a 15% raise. They ain't had these numbers. Jose Perez, y'all didn't have these numbers. Alderman Chambers, when you introduced this nonsense, y'all didn't have these numbers. Because, see, I don't work at the city. It ain't my job to know these numbers, but it's your job to know them. So as we stand here now begging other people to take cuts from the people who gave themselves raises, as we stand here saying that we're going to have, or try to get, if we could even just get to 5%, some of these departments are already thin. And who got protected? Fire and police. Because who the most? Not all, but the unions associated with these two respective departments are big time Republican supporters. They got protected in Act 10. They just got protected in Act 12. Their unions stay intact while everybody else's unions get shattered. And y'all let them put another situation in a deal that again continues to further protect fire and police, while everybody else got to figure out how to eat it and pay for it. I got to take a break. I'll be right back. All right. Welcome back. This is going to be a unique experience. I was just telling the guests in the studio. So if you're watching on Facebook Live or YouTube, if not, I encourage you to do so if you're stationary and you can. We are fortunate this morning to have both candidates for Milwaukee County Treasurer joining us in the studio. Now the setup is different than usual. Normally folks would be here at the table with me, and I'll just be looking down and looking past. But just so that folks can see both candidates, have a full view of their responses and what's going on, we did a different setup. So I'm getting used to it. I told them I would have wore cuter shoes if I had known that they were going to be facing me, because it feels like an all eyes on me kind of moment. But with that being said, I am actually very excited. This is a really cool and unique opportunity for voters and listeners, constituents of this particular station to have an opportunity to hear from two candidates. We don't get to see debates a lot. We don't get to see the candidates side by side being able to talk about their different views, policy differences, if any, what they believe the mission or the future of an organization could be. So this is wonderful, and I am just thrilled that it was put together and we are doing it. And I want to thank both of the two gentlemen that are in the studio who agreed to be a part. So for folks like, okay, Michelle, you said Ted Chisholm, you said David Cullen. What exactly again is the office that they're running for? Milwaukee County Treasurer. Huge deal. So we're going to get right in. First of all, let me say good morning. Hey, gentlemen, how you doing this morning?
Good morning, Michelle. Doing great.
Good morning, David.
Good morning, Michelle. Doing very well.
Hey, Ted, how you doing? Good.
Very
So
good.
welcome to the studio. So what I will do, just so that listeners have an opportunity to hear from you both first, a brief introduction, a little bit about yourself, your experience. State representative, I remember very well, Mr. Cullen. I was laughing. I was like, I know that name well. So let me just take a minute for folks in the community to just, again, hear from both of you. Mr. Cullen, I will start with you, and you can tell people a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Thank you, Michelle. Well, I'm happy to be here and be a part of this debate. I am a lifelong City of Milwaukee resident, a proud MPS graduate, went to John Marshall High School, and went to University of Wisconsin in Madison and graduated from Marquette Law School, practiced law, and then, as you said, I was elected to the State Assembly, living on the west side of Milwaukee, and I live at 68th and Locust in the Enders Park neighborhood, represented that area in the Assembly for many years until the Republicans decided to do some gerrymandering in 2012 and took my home in my neighborhood and put it in a district that went out to the Pewaukee line, and it became a very heavily Republican district. I was elected to the county board and served as the chair of the finance committee, and then 10 years ago, the current treasurer at that time, Dan DeLiberti, abruptly retired, and I had colleagues on the board say, we need you to run for this. We need someone qualified to run for treasurer. So I ran for treasurer and have used my experience in the state legislature, my experience as an attorney to do the job.
So just quick numbers for folks that are listening. So how long have you been in this role now as the Milwaukee County Treasurer?
It'll be 10 years in November.
Okay. All right, Ted, let's hear a little bit about who you are and what's going on.
Absolutely. And thank you again, Michelle, and thank you to 860 WNOV for the opportunity to be here participating in this morning's debate. My name is Ted Chisholm. I am a former public administrator in Milwaukee County government. I am born and raised here in Milwaukee. Attended Marquette High School here in Milwaukee. Before then, going out of state, attended McAllister College in St. Paul while working as a consultant, working with folks seeking and holding public office in 5 states around the country, working as a research consultant, helping them analyze their races and the offices that they were seeking and improvements they wished to make. I ended up stepping away from both of those tracks to come back here to Milwaukee to serve as an advisor to Ernell Lucas during his transition period when he'd been elected sheriff of Milwaukee County. I'd had the privilege to work with him before that. And then after helping manage his transition, I was appointed as his chief of staff. I served in that role for about 3 years. I oversaw the agency's budget process, entailing about $49 million in tax levy funds. And I also provided leadership to administrative and support services within the agency, including the first ever crisis assessment and response team created in the Milwaukee County Sheriff's Office that paired up deputy sheriffs and mental health clinicians to make sure that the Sheriff's Office response in our communities to really challenging circumstances was more compassionate and better informed, and was privileged to lead some innovative initiatives such as that. I also, after that, stepped aside from the county when Sheriff Lucas announced that he was not seeking re-election. And then I returned in 2023 as the Senior Administrator for Management, Finance, and Strategy for the Clerk of Circuit Court's office. That was the second ranking position in the Clerk of Circuit Court's office. I was directly responsible for managing the agency's budget, so oversaw a $42 million budget and about $20 million in funds invested by the court system pursuant to the Wisconsin statutes. And I also oversaw the jury management and IT services for the court system. So acting in essence as a business manager for an approximately 300 employee department. And that's my background in public service, and I hope to apply that experience and those results to serving as our next treasurer.
So the whole idea of treasurer, when lay people think about this job, we think about any number of things. They control the money. They make sure that people get paid. They are paying attention to the budgets for the county. We have misconceptions sometimes about exactly what a treasurer does in this particular setting. So, Dave, could you help people understand the role of the county treasurer?
Certainly. So the treasurer has several major roles. One is we collect delinquent property taxes in the suburban areas of Milwaukee. We do not deal with the city of Milwaukee. City of Milwaukee Treasurer Spencer Coggs handles those things and does a good job of it. There's been some implication by my opponent about vacant properties and that being a big problem. And quite frankly, that isn't a big problem in most of our suburban areas. Most of the vacant properties are in Milwaukee. We have no control over that. So the another major responsibility that we have is we invest the county's money that's on hand, essentially moving the money around so that Milwaukee County taxpayers can get the most bang for their buck. In the past year, I was able to earn $27 million from Milwaukee County on our investments by moving that money around. I work with investment advisors who are experts in government investing and advise me on what investments to make. We're very prudent. We're very careful with our money because we don't want a situation where the county treasurer comes to you and says, hey, guess what? We invested $100 million in Walmart and they just went under. Then you'd say, what happened to our money? So we're very careful. There's not a lot of policy initiatives that come out of the treasurer's office, but one that I'm proud of recently is last November I was approached to invest in Columbia Savings and Loan, which I'm sure most of your listeners know is the only Black-owned bank in the state. It's celebrating its 100th year of existence. They came to me and said, we would like the county to invest some of their money in us because we're trying to get more mortgages to people in disadvantaged communities. We do have an investment policy at Milwaukee County, and I looked at that, and there's a provision in the investment policy that says if you're doing something for the public good, you can make a little less money on your investment. So this falls under that because if we're investing in a smaller institution like Columbia Savings and Loan, they're not able to give us the rate of return that, say, U.S. Bank is. So I worked with them, and I was proud to be the first treasurer in state history to invest in this institution. They're hoping that other government institutions will follow suit, like the state and the city, to really bolster their programs. We also do unclaimed funds. We do, part of the payroll. those types of things. And, and having collected $90 million in delinquent taxes over my tenure, all this money goes right to the county bottom line and allows the county board and the county executive to fund their priorities. And as I said, we don't have a big policy bully pulpit. I can speak with my friends on the county board and the county exec, and if they have want my opinion on any issues, I don't have a vote. So sometimes when I'm knocking on doors and people say, well, what do you do? I say, well, if the county board does something I disagree with or stupid, like let's say they would say, I want to put a Confederate flag at every park. They pass a resolution. I could tell them it's a dumb idea, but I'd have to write the check to the flag company and pay them. And so there is a separation of powers, and that's how that works in the treasurer's office.
So Ted, after listening to the recap that Dave Cullen provided us about the role of the county treasurer, is there anything you want to add to that conversation?
I mean, what I would say is that there's some opportunities for growth and improvement in how the treasurer's office performs its core functions. And I think one of the key areas where that improvement is required is surrounding how we manage the delinquent property tax enforcement process. So my opponent gave an overview of the core functions of the office. And as he indicated, one of those functions is essentially each August, if there's individuals in our suburban municipalities who've fallen behind on their property taxes, the treasurer's office purchases those tax certificates, becomes responsible for handling enforcement and collecting those outstanding funds. And that really raises two key issues. And number one is, what do we do on one hand to help homeowners in need who are struggling with rising property tax rates, with financial emergencies, with economic situations that come up? And on the other hand, what are we doing with properties that have sat in a state of disrepair, that are not being actively used? They may be abandoned, they may be still owned by somebody who has some interest in the property but is not maintaining it and not paying property taxes. And my opponent says that's not a significant issue in our suburban municipalities, but our mayors and village presidents disagree with that. In fact, I've been endorsed by multiple current and former mayors and village presidents of the communities directly serviced by the treasurer's office who voiced that this is a leading concern. And I think this is where there's a difference in approaches. I heard some weeks back my opponent appear before the county board and indicate that in these scenarios, it's important for the municipality to sort of come forward and identify vacant properties, things of that nature. Well, I think it's critical for the treasurer's office to be more proactive. And that's why if I'm elected, what I'll do is I'm going to break down the list of outstanding delinquent property taxpayers by geographic region and make sure that we work through it geographically, designating point people within the office to work with our economic development partners, our building inspectors, alder people and trustees in each municipality to identify properties that are in need of being addressed. If there's partnerships we need to work out with the county's economic development division, with other partners at the table, so that there's a plan in place to take legal action and restore these abandoned properties into the tax base, that's an important thing that we can do. But on the flip side, I also plan to do more proactively to reach out to individuals who've fallen behind on their tax payments who are residential homeowners. Now, my opponent has talked about offering payment plans. That's certainly a good thing and something I'll continue to do, but I'm going to be more proactive even than that. We're going to reach out initially because the earlier we intervene in this process, the more we're able to prevent folks from sliding down the path into sustained tax delinquency with the 18% annual fees that brings with it. And so the faster we can intervene, the faster we can reach out and offer the option of workable installment plans to help folks catch up on their delinquent taxes, the more we can prevent any individual residential homeowner from being faced with the risk that the treasurer's office will try to take out a lien and then take foreclosure action. And that's something that in our community, we need to be foreclosing on fewer people, not more.
So
what Ted doesn't understand, because
Well,
he hasn't
hang
been
on
in
one
our
second,
well,
Dave. Yeah.
well, what
No, Dave,
we reach out to
Dave,
people. We
Dave,
reach out to people
Dave,
quarterly.
Dave,
yes.
hang on 1 second.
Yeah.
1 second.
Go ahead.
Because I just want to make sure that you know that that everybody knows there will be an opportunity to provide a rebuttal response, and so I'm getting ready to give you that. And I just and make sure that because I didn't say that out front, that if there's something you hear, you do have the ability to go back and let me address that. I just want to make sure we're clear on that. So please go ahead.
Sure.
Continue.
We send out, as soon as someone's delinquent, we send out reminder notices quarterly to those people. It's not as though the office sits there for 5 years and doesn't contact people. There are quarterly reminder notices sent out to people who are delinquent. As soon as they're delinquent, they get the tax certificate and they know they're delinquent. A lot of people are delinquent for reasons because they couldn't control them. During the COVID process, we did no foreclosures because, as you may know, President Biden said we're having a moratorium on foreclosures. I followed suit on that. I can give you one example of a case that we had with a gentleman. He ignored us for 4 or 5 years. So the way the process works, we cannot start under state statute a foreclosure process until at least 2 years after they become delinquent. So we are purchasing those delinquencies now in August for people who didn't pay their property taxes in 2023. So we're getting the December bills now in August of 2024. If you're delinquent in December of 2023, we cannot start a foreclosure action until September of 2026. So we let these people know, you're delinquent, the meter's running. Well, this gentleman ignored us. So we initiated a foreclosure action against him as well as many others. First time I ever heard from this gentleman is he came to court the day of his foreclosure. When his case was called, he came up to the judge and said, "Judge, is there anything I can do to stop this?" And the judge said, "Well, do you have the money to pay the taxes?" And he said, "No." And she said, "Well, there's not much we can do." So he started walking out of the court, shaking his head, saying, "Just kill me now, just kill me now, just kill me now." He's very upset. For those of you who have seen the movie It's a Wonderful Life, I don't want to be Mr. Potter. So I felt a little sorry for the gentleman. I spoke with him, and against the advice of our corporation counsel, I used my judgment and talked to him and said, "Okay, we'll vacate this judgment. We'll give you 60 days, see what you can do." The backstory for this gentleman was he was living in his family home that he grew up in, taking care of his parents. Both mom and dad had passed. His brother and sister, he was about 60 years old. His brother and sister assumed he was making the payments, assumed he had a job. He did. He had lost his job. He was too embarrassed to tell them. So make a long story short, he had his 60 days. He was able to sell his house. It was about a $250,000 house. Milwaukee County got their taxes. He owed about $70,000 in back taxes. So Milwaukee County got their taxes. They got the proceeds from the home. He called me the next day and was very happy and pleased that we were able to work this out. And this is just one example of how being experienced and having lived a life of judging people, because there are other people who have asked me for breaks and I've said, "Well, no, I think I'm not buying your story today. And we're going to go forward with this foreclosure." When you've been around the block a little bit and have served people, you can sort of judge people. And I was very happy to help this gentleman. And I got calls from his sister and brother who were very happy that we were able to work this all out for the family.
Ted, did you have a response to that before I go on to the next thing?
I do, just briefly. And what I would say is that I think it's wonderful that in that scenario, the individual was able to remain in their home. I know there's other scenarios where folks who've reached out to our campaign have indicated they've had the reverse experience, but we can both point to individual anecdotes and examples. But what I would say is that this points to a larger procedural issue. I mean, if somebody's coming into court after 2 years of attempted outreach and that outreach hasn't been successful, then we should be looking at that outreach process. Are quarterly mailed notices the most effective way of reaching people in our community in 2024? But beyond that, what I would say is that I don't view my role as a public servant to be to judge people. I view it as to serve people. And serving in the Clerk of Circuit Court's office, we had an initiative that was a very innovative program there to work with folks who were struggling with evictions, to really encourage mediation between landlords and tenants with the goal of keeping folks in their homes. And there's a lot of creativity and a lot of things that can be done when you have the right partnerships in place and the right mindset from folks in leadership. So absolutely, we do need to be more proactive. I do not think that simply mailing out notices, obviously that's required. Yes.
Let me push you on that for a second. So if I mail your quarterly notice,
absolutely,
that says, "Hey, you're behind. You need to address this." What else would you say that you feel like that should be done or could be done?
Absolutely.
In addition to that mailing,
I believe we should even be trying to reach out by phone. I mean, I've worked in the Clerk of Circuit Court's office. The county has the ability to look folks up through public record databases, just like any other citizen does. And we can reach out to folks and say, "Hey, we've been trying to reach you. this situation could become a serious problem if it's allowed to continue. But we need your cooperation and your help so that we can sit down and work out a payment plan. There's options available, there's help available, but we need to get you to sit down at the table with us so we can hash that out and work out a plan. I think that's something that we can do. And I think it's something that should be done. It's something that I personally would be willing to do, to pitch in and assist in that important work in the office, because I believe that any of us who are entrusted with the privilege of leadership should be willing to be as hands-on as possible in contributing to the work that we've done. And that's why it's important to have somebody in a role like this who has served as a hands-on financial administrator, who has managed a $42 million departmental budget down to the level of making line item by line item calculations, who's negotiated those budgets with our county board, who's put those together, who has that hands-on knowledge of the county's inner financial workings and even the financial software that's used to manage these operations. So I think bringing that expertise and experience to the table would allow me to be both more proactive and more helpful to folks in our community who are struggling with some of these processes.
Okay, so let me do this. So we have listeners that are sending me text messages with questions. And because of time, I'm going to ask that you guys shorten the answers just a bit so we can kind of roll through some of these. So one of the questions that came through, there was a huge spike in interest. We know that a lot of people struggle, in the African-American community. We've not recovered since the 2008 housing bubble that burst and have been severely impacted by foreclosure. So that particular point in this conversation struck a nerve with people. So Dave, one of the questions that I received was the notice that is sent to people. Does it, tell them we have a payment plan? Yeah. We can figure something out. What does that notice say?
We send out notices, and we also send them information of agencies that they can go to for help. And if they need help with their mortgage, we even suggest if a reverse mortgage is an option for that person. So we give them all sorts of options in the letter, and they can choose those. And some of these people are just at their wits' end, and we have had people with mental illness issues who are not paying their taxes. We have had people who are just somewhat incompetent. Sometimes it's a situation where grandpa dies, grandma doesn't know she's supposed to pay taxes, she's flustered and she ignores us, and we work with grandma to make sure that she can keep her home.
So Ted, someone said when you talked about the phone call, is that an additional hire? Right now, with the current responsibilities of staff in the office, are they able to absorb something like a call? And then there was an actual question about, do we know what these actual numbers are in relationship to foreclosures or people that are in this situation in the suburban community? So I can get both of that from both of you, but Ted, I'll start with you on that question.
Certainly. So to answer the question about staffing in the office, I'm absolutely confident there's no need for increased staffing in the office. My commitment is to be a fully engaged, hands-on treasurer. I will be more than happy to pick up any increase in the workload associated with increasing our outreach to better serve members of our community. But I think across the board in Milwaukee County government, and the treasurer's office is no exception to this, recruitment and retention of employees has been a challenge. I mean, that's true of really every county department. And so I'll make sure that we do everything possible to make sure that we continue to retain talented employees in the office, that we fill any vacancies that arise so that we can remain fully staffed at the level needed to perform day-to-day operations.
Dave, did you want to say anything in response to that?
We are fully staffed at the moment. And Ted said correctly that we have had trouble recruiting people. Mainly it's a salary issue. For accountants in the public and private sector are difficult to find. And Milwaukee, I've been working with the Human Resources Department to upgrade our pay and benefits package, and we have been retaining and bringing in really good people.
Okay, someone actually said, and so I'm glad that the employment and recruitment conversation was raised. Someone said that they have been at the courthouse for a number of years. And they said that they've never seen an African-American working in the county treasurer's office. Dave, are you?
Well, I guess they haven't come in our office because
Okay.
we have now I have a staff of 9 people.
Okay.
The last 2 hires we've made have been diverse hires, one an African-American woman, and I've had an African-American woman prior to that, who's still with the office, who you're going to test my knowledge of how long she's been there, but I think it's close to 8 or 9 years. She started, we got her from a temp agency. We hired her from the temp agency. Since then, she's been promoted to one of our higher level accountants. She's sitting right there if you come in the office, and the new person started 2 or 3 weeks ago. And I will admit we've had difficulty with finding diverse hires. We had one diverse hire, a Latino woman who worked with us for 6 months and then went on to a better job, and she was a wonderful hire. So as Ted had mentioned, sometimes these jobs are difficult to keep filled because people can go to the private sector as an accountant and make more money.
So just a quick clarification question then, because two people have rung in with the same question. They wanted to understand exactly how many staff are in this division and what is the operating budget, if you will, from that one perspective, and then also understanding the county's overall budget, how much money is that, and your role in managing that, if that question is landing correctly. So,
I mean, there's 10 people in our office, including me.
okay.
There's myself, there's a deputy treasurer, there is an accounting supervisor, there's a senior accountant, and then there's 5 other lower level accountants, and then there's another property records analyst. So a total of 10 people, including me. And we are one of the few departments that is not a burden on the tax levy for Milwaukee County. We bring in money to Milwaukee County with our investments and with our property, with our delinquent property tax collection. So when we do our budget, usually, and I was the county board finance chair, we like to hear from departments like the treasurer, because usually departments come in and say, well, I want to do this and it's going to cost this much on our tax levy. When I go to the county board and the county executive with my county budget, I say, listen, I'm going to bring in, this year we're projecting about $7 million, $7 to $8 million in investment income and a couple $1 million in delinquent property tax collection that then they can use to offset any property tax increase that they need.
Okay, so quick question, and this is a combination of one that was posed by a listener, and also I made note of it. The $27 million that's being earned in the course of these investments, that money just goes back to the general fund for the county. Is that what happens with that money?
Correct.
So then one of the questions was, we have seen the city come out today and announce that they're going to be looking at departmental cuts in terms of their fiscal viability. That Act 12 didn't get them everything that they needed, and that they are talking about, aside from fire and police, even if they looked at 5% cuts, they'd still be in trouble. Fiscal health of the county, number one, and would the treasurer's office, if the county has similar financial concerns going on, does the treasurer's office also feel the impacts of those cuts? And Ted, I will let you chime in first on that.
Sure. So just to speak about, generally speaking, the investment yields that the treasurer's office would obtain. I mean, yes, they can be repurposed as the county's policymakers would see fit to offset gaps that they might perceive elsewhere in the county's funds. But what I would say is that, I mean, the treasurer's office is, generally speaking, a department that would not necessarily have that levy adjustment requirement if they're offsetting their day-to-day operating expenses with revenue that's being obtained. So that's, I mean, an important clarification that I would make. But just to speak in general about the investment yields that were obtained in 2023, because my opponent cites this very often as a qualification in his reelection campaign, by the acknowledgement of the treasurer's office itself, this was a very unusual circumstance. So for the past several years, Milwaukee County has benefited significantly from having what are called ARPA dollars. That's through the American Recovery Plan Act that was signed into law by President Biden, that allocated significant federal aid funding to help the county recover from COVID. And between leftover funds from that allocation and an increase in the county's debt service reserve, there was a significant increase in 2023 of the principal available that could be invested. And so if you're investing a larger amount of money on the front end, it's only inevitable that you're going to see higher returns in that particular time frame. Now, as the Treasurer's Office has also acknowledged, the market's going to cool. The ARPA dollars cannot be even maintained after the end of this current year. And so it's likely that those earnings are going to go back down to where they used to be. And I'm not saying that as the Treasurer's opponent. I'm just repeating what was stated in his own report. And so I think to cite that as the sweeping justification for a reelection campaign is not entirely accurate. It's a unique circumstance. It's certainly very good that the county benefited from that availability of the federal funding, but it's not a reflection on investment policies necessarily at the county level. And so I would note that.
So Dave, let me ask you then. So what has typically been the return on these investments if you pull out the exceptions for like a 2023 or the influx or influence of ARPA dollars? What typically has been the average yield in terms of investment policies?
Well, I would say we can usually expect anywhere from $6 to $8 to $9 million in our investment income, and I'm proud of the fact that we made $27 million last year, because it's not inevitable that you make money on investments. I work with advisors who help me make the investment. They could either give me poor advice, or I could make poor decisions based on their advice, and we wouldn't have made that money. So to say, well, you made $27 million, but anybody could have done that, is just not true. It takes a level of expertise to do this. It takes a level of education to do this. I've been investing for doing this for 10 years. I've spent my life as an individual working with my own personal budget. I'm a property tax payer, a property owner, and I've raised a family, sent kids to school. So I have all these experiences that my opponent does not have, which are important in dealing with the public and talking to people when they come in with problems, whether it be delinquent property taxes or other things that deal with the Treasurer's Office.
So before you respond, Ted, let me just also put the question out there. This is an elected position. Are there any actual requirements that are, enshrined in law, constituted by law, about what you must have in order to run for this position? Anybody? Ted?
So to serve as the elected treasurer, just like to serve as the register of deeds or the county clerk, you have to be a U.S. citizen, age 18 or older. But what's important in this race, and you've heard my opponent talk a lot about education, his personal life experiences, and I respect his experiences. But at the end of the day, what's relevant to serving as an effective treasurer is not whether you're a property taxpayer. It's not your personal background. It's your policy vision, and it's your expertise serving in government administration as a hands-on manager of public funds. And I bring that experience to the table very successfully. My opponent talks about investments. The Clerk of Circuit Court's office is one of the few departments in Milwaukee County that invests funds independently of the county treasurer's office. At the time I served in the Clerk of Court's office, the balance in the accounts managed by the department totaled about $20 million. Yet again, it's critical that you have somebody with hands-on management experience of that nature, who's going to be able to lead the treasurer's office effectively. So yes, being able to invest competently and with the right amount of focus on the work that's being done by our financial partners, whether that's the investment advisors in the treasurer's office, the financial institutions that the Clerk of Circuit Court's office works with, that's important. And I have that experience. But what I would say is that, when we, hear my opponent talk often about, he hasn't said it here on this debate today, but he's, made comments about my education in the past or taken shots at my experience. Well, what I would say is that Milwaukee County residents know better, and residents in our community know that folks in every profession develop on-the-job experience that qualifies them to serve as leaders in their field, so long as they're performing their duties well, accountably, and with a commitment to professional excellence. And so for my opponent to try to tear that down, I'm not offended by it, but I think it's unfortunate that he would take that approach, because in some ways it does smack of an elitist attitude that I don't think really is appropriate when we're serving a community that's looking to the treasurer's office for leadership that assists every member of our community.
Dave?
Well, it's funny coming from his mouth if you look at his Facebook ads and other things, they've just been increasingly negative attacks on me that if you didn't know me, you'd think, well, geez, why is this guy the treasurer? I would ask your listeners to ask themselves if any of these things he says are true about me, why am I endorsed by Congresswoman Gwen Moore? Why am I endorsed by City of Milwaukee Treasurer Spencer Cogg? Why am I endorsed by County Comptroller Liz Sumner, all the people who deal with the financial aspects of our community? Why am I endorsed by other leaders throughout the community? State Representative Supreme Maura Makunde, Alderwoman Charlene Moore, former Alderwoman Nakia Dodd, lots of labor unions. I think I'm the only candidate who can say I've been endorsed by people at the federal, state, county, municipal level, and
Dave,
city
let
level.
me just do this though, and this is Michelle Bryan speaking. Nobody else. Some of these names that's on here, and this is not about you, but I just want, because the listeners to this audience, they've heard me say this on so many occasions. Some of these people put their name on a brown paper bag, like literally their names are worthless to me because their names show up on everybody's stuff, and so. I am not somebody that's moving, and I'm just saying this has nothing to do with you all as opponents right now.
Does Gwen Moore put her name on a brown paper bag?
Congresswoman Moore's name shows up a lot, and in places.
I'm very proud of that.
Well, I mean, and I hear you, but I'm just saying the name shows up a lot, and in places that are questionable. You know, I'm sorry. I just have to be. I'm not a person that's moved by endorsements, because I've seen a lot of nonsense with that. You know, people protect incumbents. And again, this is not about you. This is Michelle. This is just personal, like garbage that irritates me about our process is that so often you see these names and it's the same names over and over and over again. And they don't show up, when you really need to see certain things happen, we don't see them. So some of these names on this paper for me are worthless because they show up way too often. They don't seem discerning. And if I could, sit down and say, well, tell me why you supported X, Y, and Z, I don't get good answers. So I'm just going to say that as somebody who does this, endorsements don't move me. They just don't. Some of them are just such, okay. Anyway, I just had a whole personal breakdown. But with that being said, and again, and I please hope you understand the spirit that this had nothing to do with you. But the audience, if I didn't say it, they would know me because they listen and they know how I am about endorsements. I caution people all the time about so readily putting your name behind everybody because at some point you cheapen your own name because your name's on everybody's stuff. Your name's, every race you got something to say. And it's like, sometimes shut up because you're not even connected enough to know some of these things. But that's just me. It's a personal moment. Again, I concede that. But with that being said, we got a couple of minutes left, and I certainly appreciate you gentlemen both agreeing to be here this morning. We've gotten a ton of great feedback and questions. People are listening and paying attention. So, Dave, and I'll just do two quick questions and we can wrap. But Dave, when you came into the office, and now given the almost 10 years that you've been in, what would you say are the biggest either accomplishments or things that you are the proudest of in relationship to your work? And how was the office when you came in, and are you functioning at a better level? Was it functioning well? So you've maintained that. What would you just say that people understand what you walked into and where you are now as the leader of this department in the past almost 10 years?
Thank you for that question, Michelle. I think overall the office was functioning well, but needed some improvements. And so we've instituted those improvements with some good hires of people. We've had some retirements through older people who, quite frankly, weren't as invested in the job as they were when they were younger. So we've had kind of a rotation of the department, and now we have some good young people. I'm very proud of the fact that we have collected more than $90 million in delinquent property taxes for Milwaukee County, and almost probably $100 million that we've made in our investment income for Milwaukee County. And I'm proud of the work I do with the county executive and with the county board members in helping provide them some advice in crafting the budget, since I served as the finance chair of the county board before I did this. So I was on the opposite end. So I can work with those people and understand what it's like to be on the county board and make difficult decisions. And I work with individuals on the county board and individual mayors and village presidents when they call me and say, hey, there's a blighted property in our neighborhood. There was one in Wauwatosa where we were able to foreclose on it very quickly and get it back on the tax rolls. So it's really more the hands-on and just being a public servant, which I'm proud of. And what I tell people is being treasurer is kind of a low profile but important job. This really isn't the stepping stone to being governor or president or county executive in most situations, but it's a job that has to get done. And we manage the county's money. We make sure the money gets handled well. And for the most part, the only time you're going to hear about us is in a situation similar to MPS. If we screw up, you're going to say, oh, that guy's a treasurer. Now I know who that is. So I ask my staff, and maybe this is a different approach than others, to keep me out of the papers. Let's do our job. Let's manage the county's money. Let's manage the financial affairs and do it well. And we can give them an honest day's work for an honest day's pay and be thankful that we're county employees.
So Ted, you've had an opportunity. This is a position you've looked at, decided that you think you can bring value to the position and the role. So given everything that we've talked about today, what you've seen over the time that you've been campaigning, what is it that you see as by way of vision, changes? I heard you talk about being proactive in certain areas around the vacancies and foreclosures, but in terms of, departmental big picture, what is it that you would like to bring to the table?
Absolutely. My commitment is to bring the treasurer's office out from the confines of the courthouse into the community that we serve. And that means, number one, as we talked about earlier, taking a much more proactive approach to managing our delinquent property enforcement process. So on one hand, we're going to do a lot more to work proactively with folks who fall behind on their property tax payments, making sure that wherever possible, we're preventing folks from going down the pathway first to having increased interest on their outstanding tax payments that makes it harder and harder to climb their way out, but second, to prevent folks from going down that pathway to the risk of foreclosure. On the flip side, though, there are vacant and abandoned properties right now that, in one example, has sat in tax delinquency for 12 years. It's in the city of South Milwaukee.
But Ted,
yes.
Let me bring you out of that area and just 30,000-foot view. What is it, in addition to that particular, aside from that particular area of concern in the agency or department, would you be looking at, or would you like to do differently?
Absolutely. So first and foremost, we can increase the transparency with which the office operates. So when we look at the city treasurer's office, for example, we see that right on their website, you have a breakdown of their investment portfolio. I strongly believe we need to take a similar approach at the county level so that members of our community can see where our funds are being invested, what returns the treasurer's office is getting on those without having to sift through piles and piles of bureaucracy and legislative meeting minutes just to find that information. Beyond that, I'm also committed to making sure that we work more effectively with the key customers who use this office for day-to-day services, and that means our municipalities. As we discussed earlier, our municipal leaders are looking for new leadership in this office. I'm honored by the support and endorsement of multiple mayors and village presidents, and the reason for that support is that our municipalities do need better representation. When the treasurer's office is facilitating software for our suburban jurisdictions to manage aspects of the property tax collection process, to make sure that that software works properly, we want to make sure that these folks are represented, that their clerks and treasurers, the folks who are handling these funds on the municipal end, are engaged in this process. And so I've worked with our municipalities in the past. I've directed intergovernmental relations for two of Milwaukee County's larger departments, and that's both experience and a vision that I will bring to the office. And especially because the treasurer's office is one of the agencies of county government that deals the most closely with our municipalities, especially our suburbs, it's critical that we have that new approach. But what I would say to encapsulate my whole policy approach is that we need and deserve a treasurer who is going to take the office from what it has been historically, which has been frankly a sinecure, and a political sinecure at that, into an office
and
that
wait.
Yes.
So for the listeners that said, hey, what? Tell people what you mean.
Well, so a sinecure is generally an office that is, I would say, is held by folks who've held political office for a long time, and it doesn't come with a lot of scrutiny and focus and engagement. And I am committed to bringing all three of those values to the treasurer's office if I am elected. We will be a more transparent office, a more engaged office, and an office that's centered on a coherent policy vision of serving our community, of reaching out proactively to the people who are most in need of the office's assistance, and doing so in a way that our community can trust.
Well,
So he
John,
uses the word cynicer and wants to call
ahead.
me an elitist.
look,
No,
did-
I mean let's talk about who could reach out to people.
well, I tell you what, did you want to say anything else before I close it out?
No, that's okay. Michelle,
Okay.
thank you for your time.
So I just want to tell you, gentlemen, these races are never easy. Public service is often a thankless job. And there are days when you feel like I have gone in and given it my best, and people will tell you, yeah, not so much, and there are days when you say, hey, I want to help and I want to get engaged, and people say, really not welcome. So I've seen it and been on both ends of this conversation, whether an incumbent who is saying, I got a record to stand on, and I'm proud of that record, and I hope you'll consider that record when you talk about this campaign or this election, I should say. And then there are, people at the door saying, hey, I want to contribute. I think there's something I can bring to the table. And again, hopefully I'll be given an opportunity. So it's never easy, but I respect anyone that's willing to do this work. I respect and appreciate anyone that sacrifices. I have laughed as candidates have talked about, oh, I'm going to go and get reacquainted with my parents and my wife and my dog. And, it's hard work. And so, gentlemen, thank you both for being willing to sit down. A lot of candidates will not do that. We have seen this thing kind of turn crazy in elections in which people don't want to talk. Some people will not even come to the radio station to talk to listeners. Ted, you have come multiple times. Dave, the door is open. Please take advantage of this opportunity to be able to engage people, not during an election cycle, just because, hey, we're trying to get information to people. But I just respect it. I respect the work. I respect what you both are trying to do, either to continue doing it or to get into the game. And I just want to tell you how much I appreciate it. And our listeners have appreciated it. I've gotten the messages. I haven't looked at my Facebook yet, but I know there will be tons of questions. I will follow up if there's anything that we didn't cover, and let you know that this was a question that someone raised, and I'll try to get an answer for them. So quick 45-second closing remark from both of you about this election, which is happening tomorrow. Tomorrow, I'm going to be Annie in here, start singing, I need you to go vote tomorrow. So I'll start with you, Ted. Last closing comment.
Well, thank you again, Michelle, for the opportunity to be here this morning. And what we have before us tomorrow is an opportunity to choose a new vision for the Milwaukee County Treasurer's Office that's centered not only on a bold vision for reform and innovation and more effectively serving our community, but it's also grounded in hands-on leadership experience in county financial administration. I am ready to bring my experience managing over $62 million in county tax levy funds and investments to serving as your next treasurer, a treasurer whom you can trust to be actively engaged, serving our community, helping homeowners in need, and addressing the persistent challenge of vacant and abandoned properties. Thank you again for this time, and I'd be honored to earn our community's support.
Dave.
Thank you, Michelle, for this time. And to me, this is really an example of, in these difficult economic times, do you want an experienced leader who's done the job, who's managed the office, who's invested your funds, who's collected your delinquent property taxes? Or do you want someone with virtually no experience, no education, handling these kind of dollars? And we see what happens at different levels of government when we let inexperienced people handle hundreds of millions of dollars for the first time. Bad things can happen. As I've said before, this is a low profile but important position in county government. I'm asking for your vote to continue serving you tomorrow.
All right. Well, that is it. So this was an opportunity to hear from both gentlemen that are running for the Milwaukee County Treasurer's Office. These are tough decisions. If people want to learn more about each of the candidates, is there a website that I can direct people to? Ted?
Yes, ours is tedchisholm.com.
And Dave?
VoteDavidCullen.com.
All right. All right, family. We got some tough decisions to make. Hopefully, you will do the homework. You will do the research. I tell people all the time, you know, half of the job is on us. The candidates run, but we have to, as the electorate, make sure that we are picking the best people for the job, that we're doing our homework, we're asking the tough questions, pick up a phone, send an email. If there's something else that we didn't cover, you didn't hear here, and you want to know. I got to get out of here. Michelle Bryant, I'm going to take a break. But Michelle Bryant, WNOV, 860 AM, 106.5 FM. Be right back. All right. Last 5 minutes of the show. Again, I want to thank David Cullen and Ted Chisholm, both candidates for Milwaukee County Treasurer, one a incumbent and one a challenger in this particular race. And I want to thank people who were listening and reaching out with questions of their own. This is how the process is supposed to work. This is the thing that I fight for the community, which is that there will be people that will come and talk to you, that will answer the questions that you have, that will not just, talk at you, but be engaged. This is something that we do not see. I know that there was a request made by Ken Harris over at the other station up the way that wanted to have a debate in the 4th Senate District race and was not able to get that pulled off. I know Representative Myers wanted to participate, but George Drake, I don't know what happened, but it never happened. There are organizations. The only organization that held a candidates forum in relationship to the 4th Senate District race was, I think it was Expo. And, we are getting to a place now that this is just crazy, that people don't have to have to come before the constituency, that they don't have to be on the same stage together, the same platform together. They don't have to answer these questions together. So I am pleased and thankful for the folks that made this happen here at the station. I'm pleased that both candidates were interested and willing to come and do the tough stuff. This is the tough part about politics. And there's too many people that run from it. They want to be protected. They want to hide. And I meant what I said about endorsements. And then, you got to pay attention to endorsements, because look at all of the names. Then look at the people that you directly and immediately work with and see what that means. That's why I tell people, and I've said to new and upcoming politicians, elected officials, don't put your name everywhere. Because truth be told, you don't know all of these people. You don't know enough about the work that's being done to even honestly and legitimately say, I can put my name behind somebody else's work. I mean that across the board. This had nothing to do with Cullen or Chisholm. I talk about this ad nauseum. And I tell the community, don't pay attention to these people's names who appear on these damn endorsements, because a lot of times they name be on everybody's stuff. They name is worthless. It's on everybody's stuff. I mean that. I don't care who don't like it. I mean what I said. You can't put your name everywhere. That's the most important thing you have. It's people get their name away like a $2 damn trick. Like, what is you doing? It's everywhere. So then it ultimately means nothing, because you endorse, I don't know. The dog catcher. I gotta go. Michelle Bryant, WNOV, 860 AM, 106.5 FM. Family, I'll talk to y'all tomorrow. Peace. No, tomorrow. Just let it all hang out or say something real. Say something. Baby, yeah. Said your words, girl. Something.